everyone, I'm Jody Hand, Mrs. Hand Painted, and thanks for checking out my YouTube channel here where I share watercolor tutorials with everyone. Today's video, I'll be painting a little Etchr postcard here for the holidays with some holly and a cute little pun on here, Happy Holidays. So I hope you have fun painting along with me. In today's video, I'm also featuring one of my handmade watercolor sets, the Retro Holiday Palette, which is still available in my Etsy shop. And if you're watching this video later in the year and you still want to get one, just send me a message on Instagram, Mrs. Hand Painted, or you can check out my Etsy shop and message me there because I do plan on keeping this set in stock through the end of the year, and I'll bring it back next year for the holidays as well. So without further ado, I guess let's have fun painting together. Start out by going over my supplies. I have some Etchr postcards. I just got these not that long ago, but I haven't had a chance to paint with them a whole lot, so I thought this would be perfect. A little different than doing a greeting card that's folded. So these are 4x6 postcards. They're 100% cotton, and you can get a box of 100 of them. And really, really nice sturdy little box they come in. Now, I could just leave this right on my desk, or if you want to tape it down, which I'm going to do after I trace my letters here, I have just like a little piece of chipboard here, and I could tape that down with some washi tape. All right, my other supplies then, I've got 2 water jars, one for washing out the paint out of my brush, so my dirty water, and then my clean water for getting new paint. The palette I'm using is my own handmade watercolors that I have available in my Etsy shop. This is the Retro Holiday Palette. So you can find that in my Etsy shop, and I also have some smaller sets that are some deluxe sample sets that are a little bit smaller. They're about a little less than a quarter pan of paint in each of them. And then I just have a ceramic plate for my palette. The brushes I'll be using today are Princeton Velvetouch series, and I'm going to use a round 4 and a round 1. And then I printed off my little sentiment that I'm going to do for my holly card. It says Happy Holidays, a little pun that I'm a big fan of. And the font that I used is called Buttercup. I probably purchased it off of Creative Fabrica or one of the other font sites that I frequently buy fonts from. I don't remember exactly where I got this one, but I purchased that font. I have a lot of fonts that I love, so just pick one that you really like, and I like to print it off, and then I'm going to use my light pad to transfer it over to my postcard. And the reason that I like doing this, my little lettering hack, is because I am terrible at freehand brush lettering. I just do not excel at it at all. So what I'm going to do is actually take a Tombow, this is a dual brush pen, number N89. It's from the Grayscale set. I'm actually going to use that to trace over instead of a pencil. Because it's really, really faint, and then I can go over it in my paint with whatever color I decide to do that. Whoops, I just hit the button with my arm. So I'm going to quickly just go over this font. I'm having a little trouble seeing it because I have my lights on my desk so that you can see. And usually I turn all my lights off when I'm using my light pad. So, and with the lines showing through, it's a little bit trickier to see there. Okay, so you can see I've got that on really, really faint gray. And I'm going to tape my card down to my little piece of chipboard here with some washi tape. This is just to prevent any paper curling if I get a lot of water on these. So since they are a small sheet of paper, I'm just going to tape down 2 sides. I don't need to do all 4 because I'm not doing a wash background, but I might do a little bit of background directly around there, so there might end up being a little bit extra water than normal. So I want to make sure that that's taped down so it doesn't curl up. And I will use a heat tool as well. That's another little supply I have. This is from Ranger. That they make a lot of crafting supplies. It's a heat tool. So it doesn't really blow a lot of air. It just heats up with warm heat. A lot of people use it for embossing, card making, but it works really good for drying paint as well. So I really like that particular one. I've had it for quite a long time. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is put my berries in for my holly, and then I'll build my holly leaves around it. So I'm going to use my round size 4, and the color I have in here is cherry, which is a single pigment red. So just use any kind of bright red that you have, or if you're looking for something that's more of a vintagey feel, you could go with a darker, more cranberry colored red. So whichever red that you have in your palette will work really well. So I'm going to get a little bit more here on my palette. I already had some in the corner here I'm kind of mixing in with. All right, so you don't want to have too much water on your brush. You don't want to end up dripping big blobs of it. So you can kind of, on the corner of your palette, you can just kind of get some of that excess water off your brush. And we'll want it pretty concentrated too. You don't want to have a very light wash for this, unless that's the look you're going for. It's your painting. Do whatever you want. So I'm just going to do a bunch of random berries, and then we'll build holly leaves around it. Alright, so we'll basically just paint a small circle, and then I want to leave a little highlight on my berries where light would be reflecting off of it. So I'm just leaving a small little white area, and then when you go and do your next berries, make sure you always put the light reflection point on the same area of each berry, because your light would be coming from one direction. So I'm picking my light coming from up here, so my berries would be shown on this way. I always want to have my light reflection point in that top left side if this is where I chose it, just to make it more uniform and it doesn't look kind of strange otherwise. I don't know how else to describe it. So, and we'll do another full one right here. And then you can have maybe some that are a little more tucked behind. And if you don't want them kind of bleeding together, you can come back after those dry, or dry it with your heat tool really quick. So that one's tucked behind, so I don't really have a light reflection point on it. And if you forget to put one on there, not a big deal. And if you're really a stickler for it, you can always go back with a white gel pen or Simply Proof White and just add a little dash on them. I'll have a couple that come over here. And we can always add more berries in after we get our leaves if you feel like it doesn't have enough. Just try to vary up the size a little bit. Make some bigger, some little. That got a little wonky looking. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and put some holly leaves in. I'm just going to keep using my round size 4, and I want to mix up kind of a yellowy green color. So I'm going to use the juniper that's in my set. This one is got an ultramarine base with some yellow, so it's got a nice granulation property that I really, really like. And then I can always add in some blue and yellow to kind of just change up the shade of that. So actually I will add a little bit of my goldenrod, which is this nickel azo yellow, and it's a really pretty golden yellow, even though it looks kind of like a really olivey brown in the pan. So, all right, I want to make sure that my berries are completely dry, so I'm just going to hit them with my heat tool really quick, or you can just wait about 10 minutes or so, or however long, depending on what paper you're using and how much water you used. It will depend how long it takes to dry. It should be dry enough that my red won't bleed into my green now. And I'm going to do several different shades of green here, so I can go back and forth and mix some blue in with it. I could try my other darker green and add blue. You could add a little bit of red to it even to make an even darker shade of green. So we can practice mixing up some different shades of green and just kind of vary it out across this whole painting here. Alright, so I'm going to have one leaf come this way, and I'm going to start just by doing the center line. I'm going to do a fairly large leaf, and then we'll do 1/2 of it like that, and then will come out this way. And then if you intersect with a berry, just kind of have an imaginary line going through it. And then I'm going to go right up to the edge of my center line and leave just the faintest little white bit right there for the vein. And if you don't want to do that, you could also do the same little technique that I do with all of my leaves and kind of flowers, is by flipping your brush around like so, and then doing a slight impression into your paper where the paint can settle in, and then you'll have a darker line formed that will give a vein detail for you. And we can kind of mix in a little bit of a darker green and kind of give a little shading here and let that bleed in there and blend. Just give it a little, I'm just going to try and very closely go up to the edge of my berry without hitting it. And if you want to go back and add other vein details after it dries, you can do that as well. Just take the point of your brush or a smaller brush and you can go right back over the top to make a vein detail. Alright, so there's one holly leaf. I'm going to go ahead and just keep repeating that and just make some random leaves all over the place. Maybe I'll mix up a different shade of green here. I'm going to take my juniper, which is more of a green oxide based. And then I can maybe take a little bit of that peacock blue that is like more of a phthalo blue green color. A little bit more there and get myself more of a darker blue green there. Again, I'll just do that same method. Do my center line, an imaginary line going through my berries. And then, that's why I like taping it down to a piece of cardboard, is then I can kind of flip it around without worrying about it being taped down to my desk. And then while that's still wet, I can drop in some other shades of green. Give it a little more depth and variation here. And you can even just drop in directly some color here, like this yellow. And just kind of let that flow through there. And just be careful you don't have too much water on your brush so that it doesn't just start pooling up everywhere and make blooms. It's really pretty. All right, I'm going to go back and forth between my greens. I kind of have, this is all the same paint mixed up on this palette, so I have all these different variations of green and yellow blue I've kind of mixed together over the last couple weeks here that I haven't washed my plate off from yet. I think I'll do one going this direction. I can vary up the size on these as well and just make some that are long and skinny and some that are maybe a little fatter and shorter. Alright, and see here I kind of got a little too close to that, so then I have the other side to try again to leave my white space. I'll drop in a little darker color here along the edge. And I do notice about these Etchr postcards, they have quite a nice texture. So if you're not used to painting on something that's quite so textured, you can get some feathered edges. So just take your time if you're trying these out. I really do like them for little mini landscape paintings because usually I like to do that on rough paper. So they're very similar to that, but just maybe not quite as textured. All right, so let's see. Let's fill in. This is kind of that juniper color over here mixed in with more of the blue. So see if I can get one maybe this way. And this will have We've got a little imaginary line going behind these other leaves. I'll drop in some other colors here, give that some variation. Make that a little bit thinner there for that white line. Okay, I'm going to do one that's maybe a little bit more washed out here. So I'm going to add a little more water to my brush, to my paint here. You know what, I don't really care for them. I'm going to add a little more color in there. That's a little too light. I'm going to have that kind of coming from inside here. And here I've kind of lost my center here, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and do that brush flip move. And make a small impression into the paint. So just very, very light pressure. You don't need to press hard at all. And the paint will just settle down in there. And now I don't want all this white space from my berries, so I'm just going to go in with a very light wash of that green, just kind of fill in around the berries. Right now I'll have maybe a branch coming over here from these. I can add maybe like a half a holly leaf here. That would be like a side view maybe. Do that again right there. And I'll put in a little of that darker green. Just gonna drop that color in and push it. And I think I will do a little vein detail here just along that edge, just to get that paint to settle there. Give me a little darker line. All right, and I want to put more of a, get a little more of my juniper and some more goldenrod or julep. That yellow green back again. I think I'll do the vein detail like this on this one again. All right, and I'll drop in some darker green here. I'm going to add another leaf in here. to drop in a little of the darker green just to give that some more variation. Alright, I'm kind of going along a diagonal here just to give that a little more visual interest. Get some green stems coming out to my berries here, and I'll do another little leaf right here. I'm kind of getting close to my lettering here, so I want to make sure I don't go over the top of that so that I don't have to worry about layering over top of it. Right over the edge there of my H. I'll do maybe another half one here. And I'll do a little vein detail along that by flipping my brush around again. Alright, these ones up here are a little bit light for my liking. I'm actually just going to go ahead and add a little bit more of the darker green over top, another wash layer. I think I need another little bit right here. We'll do another half leaf. A really small one. When I say half leaf, it's more like you're seeing it from a side and it's turned. So if you look at a picture of real holly leaves, you're not going to see a fully formed holly leaf all the time. You'll see the sides or the back. Need something more right here. I'm going to do another little layer over that one. Maybe a little more on the yellow side. And I think I'm wanting to put something else in here. Maybe have a leaf that comes from behind that stem. I feel like that's just so bare right there. I could have maybe just the kind of do imagine what would be showing, and most of it's tucked behind. I can go back over my branch here because it's really getting kind of lost here. A little too much water on my brush is kind of cooling up on me. I'm just going to go ahead and do the little vein detail in there, let that paint set in there. I'll go back and tidy this up here after that's dry. Alright, so while I'm waiting for all my holly leaves to dry here, I'm going to go ahead and do my little sentiment here. And I think I'll just go ahead and do the red because I want to pull more of that red out here. So I'm going to switch over to my round size 1 for my lettering. I'm going to get a nice amount of red here. And it's harder to get a lot of paint with a little tiny brush. So if you want to use your larger round to gather up some paint, or if you don't like to do this with the brush and the paint, you could just go back to the markers and just do it in a red marker to begin with instead of doing the gray and tracing over it like I'm doing. That's just my little method that I like to do. And I want to make sure that that leaf is really dry. I'm going to hit that with the heat. I don't know, that's not all the way dry, but hopefully it will be by the time I'm done with my letters. So, alright, I noticed here that I've got a drip of water on the ferrule of my brush, so I'm just going to dry that off with my paper towel so it doesn't drip It's handy to have a nice sheet of clean paper towel right next to you, or towel, I use here, this is my normal. I use this really filthy old baker's cloth, like one of those flour sack towels. That's my normal, but it doesn't look very nice on the video, so I generally just get a fresh paper towel when I do a video. I will note that the texture of this makes it a little more difficult to get nice smooth strokes for the letters. So just take your time. And when you're using a smaller size brush like this, you will have to reload it quite often if you want to have nice consistent color. Otherwise, you're going to start running out of water, and you'll get that really feathered texture going where you don't have enough paint and water on your brush. I'm just trying to make sure I go over all of my gray marker lines. And you could use a watercolor pencil or a regular pencil, and then when it's dry you can erase your extra lines. I've just started doing this marker thing lately. It's just a little bit easier, especially if I'm making like a thicker font that I don't have to try and outline the whole thing. I can just use the brush marker to get the thickness of the letters a little easier. There's that. Now, my fun part is I'm going to add a little sparkle to this baby. I have this mica shimmer paint in here that is actually just a transparent shimmer, but it's got this really, really awesome silver shimmer mica in it. I call it Snowflake Sparkle. And I'm going to go over top of some of the pieces of my painting just to add some little sparkle and make it a little more fun and cheerful for the holidays. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep using my round size 1. I am going to add some water to this, which I had a pipette sitting here, and I think my 2-year-old decided to grab it. Let me get another one. Ta-da! You don't have to use this, but it makes it a little handier to drip some water in there and get it activated, so then I'm not digging around in there trying to mix it up so much. And I totally did not have all the red rinsed out of my brush. Oh boy. Alright, I'm going to take my paper towel and try to just soak up that water. We'll do that again. I'm going to wipe my brush and my paper towel and make sure I get the red out of it. Alright, if you're going to be doing a lot of shimmer paint and you're going to be going back and forth, I recommend actually getting a 3rd jar of water for yourself so that you have a separate jar to rinse out the shimmer. And then make sure you're rinsing it out really well between going from the shimmer paint to your matte paint so that you don't contaminate your pans of paint with shimmer, because this will transfer to there and then everything you paint will have shimmer, and if you don't want that, then you're in trouble. So if you're using any of these kind of shimmer paints or metallic paints, try to have a separate jar just to rinse that out, because it does kind of float around in your water sometimes, especially as you're stirring it up when you go to rinse out your brush from other colors, and you'll pick up little bits of shimmer everywhere. So just to save yourself a little headache, get a 3rd jar. And if you forget, you'll have to keep rinsing your water out, otherwise you will be cursing yourself later for all of the shimmer in all of your paint. Alright, so I'm going to take that little shimmer and I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of my little vein details on my holly. And it adds just enough shine and sparkle that really adds a little extra touch to it. And you can just do whatever you think looks the best. I'm going to do like some little outlines and highlight the holly here. Maybe I'll outline the holly leaves. I'm just using a real light touch so I don't get too thick of lines. And just keep reloading your brush as you use it up. All right. Check out that sparkle. I know it might be hard to see. I'll just try to move it around so that you can see the light catching those shimmery bits. Maybe I'll do a little drop shadow on my lettering as well. That would be kind of fun. Basically what I'm doing here is just everything on the left and the bottom side. I'm going to do a little swoop of the lighter shimmer color just to kind of get that a little shadow line. All right, that's really fun. All right, I'm get that all rinsed out of my brush. My tape out of here. All right, happy holidays. And then I have that all ready to go. If you don't want to send these directly in the mail, I've heard people do. They just stick a stamp on them and put them whatever the postcard rate is. But maybe if you're really wanting this artwork to be protected so it doesn't get all smudged up, you can always just put it in a little envelope. They're 4x6 size, so you can fit those in smaller envelopes and send them out. And I'm sure everyone would love to get a little snail mail greeting right now, especially with everyone staying at home. So I hope that you're staying safe and that you have a happy holiday as well.